Okay, everyone. Next part of this data demo, we're going to be making graphs. Yay! Graphs are fun. They really are cool. And again, this is one of those skills that they just like can't teach in a textbook just because it's so messy. Um, there's so many weird little quirky things with graphs that you have to take into account, and you kind of just have to start building them and messing with them. But I'm hoping this provides you a foundation, right, that you can use to expand your knowledge on making graphs. At least you can tell people you can make graphs. Okay, so we're going to again be using the American Trends Panel, Wave 126. That's some really cool things in here. And we're going to do two graphs. We're going to do one where we look at a bunch of variables together, and then we're going to do one where there's a crossdown. So we're going to start off by looking at these questions. These are so interesting. Um, in general, how important is it for each of the following to live a fulfilling life? And you have being married, having children, having a job or career they enjoy, having a lot of money, and having close friends. So we're going to actually use a graph to represent all of these together. So what we're going to do here, we're going to run some frequencies. Let's go analyze descriptive frequency. And let's get those variables. So we'll get the fam, what are they? Yeah, fam life A through E. So fam life A, fam life B, fam life C, fam life C, D, and E. Okay. Now I'm just kind of curious. Yep, no, we don't want that. All right, click OK. And now we need to run it again, right? With the weights on. Put my output to the side here. We'll turn our weights on so we can get those weighted percentages. And let's run those frequencies again. Okay, so make sure in your output, this is all you got, right? So you only have the unweighted frequencies and then the weighted frequencies. And make your life so much easier on this next stage. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to export our data. So I'm going to just call this data demo graphs, better than my last name. And we're going to infer file type again, and it's going to be a CSV, so we can open it in Excel. So go ahead, save that, and then open it up. I have so many files. It showed up there too, right at the beginning, but now I have to go searching for it. There we go. All right, so building graphs in Excel. Why Excel? There are better tools out there. Like you can make some really slick looking graphs in Illustrator and a couple of different things. R has some really cool like visualization techniques. This is your everyday graph building toolkit though, right? So if you need to quickly build a graph that gets the point across, this is what you're going to use. And they can be nice looking. We're going to make some nice looking graphs. So the first thing we're going to do here is build a working table. Now, unlike the working table we did with the when we were building a table, we don't want the ends in there. We just want the percentages. So what we're going to do is we're going to create columns for each of these categories. So having close friends was one, right? That's the first one. And then being married, having children, having a job or career they enjoy, then having a lot of money and having close friends, right? Having a lot, no, having close friends, that's where we get to our weighted. Ooh, tricky thing. Did it go in there twice? Oh no, that's just the table statistics. Oops. So being married is the first one that starts. Okay, having a job or career, and then having a lot of money, having close friends. Having a lot of money. Having close friends. Okay, now we want the weighted percentages, right, for those different categories. So I'm actually going to copy this and I'm going to come down here to where I know my weighted stuff is. Paste it. Now I'm going to copy and paste these categories because they're already there nice for me. So we got extremely important, very important, somewhat important, not too important, not at all important. Now we need to put in the percentages, the valid percentages, right? So being married, let's see here. Oop, that's the cumulative. There we go. And then for the next one, having children. So we're just copying and pasting, just highlighting, Control C, Control V. And then close friends. That's our last one here. Okay. So we have a nice working table. Now, before we do anything, let's clean up those numbers a bit. We got those trailing zeros. I hate those trailing zeros. So let's highlight it all. Right click it, go to Format Cells, still stay on percentage, drop it down to 1. There we go, 1 trailing zero. Now it's easy. We're going to highlight the whole table, including that blank cell in the top corner. And then we're going to come here to Insert. And we're going to click on Recommended Charts. And the cool thing is it shows us some different kinds of charts here. Click on All Charts. This might be a better place for us to start. So you see here, see this is a clustered column. And it's kind of messy, right? It's kind of hard to read. So instead, we are going to use a 100% stacked column. Now, you can choose whether it's the extremely important or the categories. We want the categories, right? It just is flipping your own column. So make sure the bars represent the things you want. So go ahead, click that one. And then click OK. All right. Now, right away, I see an issue. Do you notice our category ordering? It goes from extremely important to not at all important. That's like the opposite of what we probably would want, right? I don't know. Intuitively, to me, it would sound like you'd want as the graph goes up that it signals importance. That's a preference thing. I don't know. But real quick, can I show you something? There's an easy way to kind of flip it just to kind of see how you like it. If you click on the y-axis here, right click and come down to Format Axis, you can click this, Values in Reverse Order, and then you can kind of see what that would look like. You kind of like it that way better. Now, alternatively, what you could do to fix the issue is just copy and paste it right into a new table. I've done that so many times in my life. And sometimes that's nice because did you notice how it kind of messed up the 100% like numbering? And then you can just drag it down, the highlight part here, because that's what Excel is using to draw to get the tables. Yeah, we'll do that. I like that. Okay, so we got our tables here. Now we just got to clean it up. I'm not a big fan of the y-axis and the grid lines. I think it's really hard for people to like look at this box and be like, what percent is that, right? I mean, it's almost not how it should be used. If you have the stack or the numbers on the side, it should be like just one measure, right? Going up or down, like it's either 20 or 30%. So we're going to take this out. I'm going to click on that y-axis, delete it. And I'm also going to click on the grid lines and delete them because it's just visual clutter at that stage. Okay, now let's add a title. So when you make graphs, you call them figures. So I'm going to call it like figure 1. And what do we describe this as? How important are following, that wouldn't be, are the following in order for people to live a fulfilling life? I'm gonna make it not all capitalized. How important are the following in order for people to live a fulfilling life? And I'm gonna put it in quotes so that people know that's part of the survey question. I'm not digging how life is there just on its own. So I'm going to drop live down. That's a little better, right? Okay, how important are the following in order for people to live a fulfilling life? Yeah, I think that's okay. Now let's put in among US adults. I think I like that. We're going to put in the data set name in a different spot. Okay. Now we got to put some numbers on these boxes, right? These bars, the bars within the bars. I don't know what you call that. So to do that, we're going to click on the whole graph, and then you come up here to chart elements. So when you click on a graph, you get chart design, format, all these really cool things. Come here to add chart element, and then click on data labels. And then you can choose where those data labels go. Totally up to you on what it is. Inside end gets a little messy. Inside base gets a little messy. Sometimes just the center is the way to go. Okay, so that helps. We have our data labels. They're so hard to see. That purple on the black is killer. So maybe let's recolor these boxes. So we got not at all, not too important, somewhat important, very important, extremely important. Now, people tend to associate red with like negative and green with good, right? Stop, go, like a stoplight. So maybe we'll make the not at all important a different color. So to change the color of the boxes, you'll click on it here, and then format data series will open up, and you want to come here to fill, not border, but fill. And click on solid fill. And then we can choose. Now we got these nice gradients here. Let's make the bottom one this like burnt orange. This red one that they have, it's so jarring. Kind of hurts my eyes. Maybe I just have old eyes. I really do think I have old eyes. Okay, so we're going to click on this orange accent. Not the very bottom one, because that's almost too dark. The one right above it. And then we'll just kind of go up. So the not too important, let's make it this orange. And the somewhat important, so let's switch, right? Because we went from not important, not too important to somewhat important. Like it's a little more positive. Let's make that a really light green. And then very important, let's make that, ooh, that's a weird looking green. Let's make this one that green, okay? And then the very important, it's a little darker. No. Okay, so we'll keep it there. Oh, they are different greens. Okay. And then the top one, oh man, I don't like that. Well, that's okay. Yeah, that works. I like that. Wow. Okay, that's cool because now just by changing the colors, can't you interpret the data so much better? I mean, look at the having career or job they enjoy. I mean, that's like dominant, right? In terms of what it takes to live a fulfilling life. Oh, commercialism. Oh, status. Okay. So we have our different things here. We got to fix this up still. We still got some things to fix. First off, Excel loves to make graphs in gray text color. I hate it. So we're going to click it here. And then we're going to go to home. And on font color, let's change it to black just to make it easier to see. Let's bump our title up. Okay. In fact, let's bump everything up. So let's click on the whole graph and let's click the increase font size. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, now we got some scrunched numbers, right? So what we can do here is we can grab those individual numbers, kind of drag them out. Sometimes people will just delete them, honestly. And if you drag it out just enough, it puts those cool lines in it, right? Did you see that line up here? There we go. That 4.4 is so hard to see. I'm going to drag it out too. Make a line. There we go. And let's take that 2.3. You have to kind of like click twice, so you only grab that number. Nice. I think I like that. These top ones are kind of hard to see. Is there a different green that we can use? What about this green? There we go. It's just a little lighter, right? We can see it just a little bit better. Okay, now we have our um, categories here. Can we bump those down a little? I think I like them a little smaller. And then our legend here, let's bump that down a size. And actually, you know what we can do with this legend? Let's click it and let's click on top here. See how the legend options came up? Let's put it up there. I like that. Okay, looking good. Looking way good. I like that. Now let's add a note, a footnote. Okay, this gets tricky, right? Because it's like you can't just, I wish they had an option in here at chart elements for that. You can sometimes get away by adding an axis title and it'll bump it. Another approach you can take, so you can do that, but another approach that maybe is more versatile is you select the whole graph here and you move it up just a little. And then that opens up some white space below. I'll make it just a little bit bigger. Right there. And then we'll do insert text box. And make sure as you draw your text box that you don't go outside of the graph area. Because if you do it all in the graph area, then it recognizes it's part of the graph. And then we can say note and equals unweighted, percent equals weighted. And there's something else important we need to put here, source of the data. So I'm also going to put here source American Trends Panel, ATP, wave 126. Now you might have to adjust the text box size a little to get everything to show up. I'm actually going to make it a little smaller. Come on now. So I'm going to drop it down a little. There we go. I like that. And that, everybody, is a fine looking graph. And what cool stuff you see, right? Like, what does it say about US adults? What do they consider important for people to live a fulfilling life? Like, look at being married and having children. Like, you still have the majority, right, who are saying it's like somewhat important. But man, it holds nothing against having a job or career they enjoy. That is so fascinating. Oh, there's a few things here to fix. So see the being married, see how married is capitalized? That bugs me. And the others aren't. So we're going to make married lowercase, having children lowercase. So it's all consistent. And now we need to add some sample sizes. So since we have just like 5 variables here, we don't need the ends for each category. We just need it for the whole. So that simplifies our life a little bit because we can come up here, actually, where it says valid, and that's our valid end. Because that's how many people there were that actually answered the questions. So I'm actually going to copy that and bring it down here just so I have it easy for me to look at. So we need to add those ends, and a good place to put it would be underneath these labels. So here on being married, I'm going to select that cell because that's where it's drawing that information from for that label. And then I'm going to do Alt Enter, which drops it down a line. Man, when I learned that, that was an amazing day. And I'm going to put N equals 5,060. Right, now let's do it for the others. So Alt Enter, N equals 5,062. That wasn't even an enter sign. And then having a job they enjoy, Alt Enter, N equals 5,063. Having a lot of money, 5,064. And then the last one, having close friends. These are like healthy sample sizes, 5,063. Now, obviously, what we haven't done is looked at how different socio-demographic characteristics might influence this, right? But there, we have our ends. Well, it's kind of bumping into it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make the whole table just a little bit bigger. Drag this up a little more. Too much. There we go. That should be a little bigger. So cool. All right, now the tricky thing. So you built this beautiful table, right? And now we got to put it into Word. So you can just copy and paste the table into Word, paste it, but it's going to be a little rude. See, it kind of messed up your formatting. Um, don't worry. Most of the time, if you just hit the whole table and bump the font size down, it fixes those issues. At least it gets it to where you can fix it, right? So I want that all on one line. So then I'm going to bump this up. And yeah, not bad. There it is. I like that table. That's a cool table. That's something to talk about. All right. So we got that. Now let's do a table where we have an independent and dependent variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the variable for income, and we're going to look at its influence on the question, how important is it to be, what should we do? Being married. So let's go back to our data. I'm going to close out my output because I don't want, because we're going to have to export it again. So I'm going to close out my output. And then we're going to go here, analyze, descriptive, and then crosstabs. We're going to leave, well, should we leave age in? Let's leave the age in. So let's leave age in our column. And let's find that being married one. Let's look at that. How important is the following for people to have a fulfilling life? Being married. Do you think that's going to vary by age? We will see. Okay. Now, like with the table, let's be super fancy. And when we run it twice, once with weights on, once with weights off, let's only have it show at the counts or the percentages. I think that's so cool. So let's turn the weights off because we still had it on. And let's go analyze, descriptive, crosstabs, this. On cells, only show counts. I think this is so cool. I like it. Okay. Ooh. And now let's turn our weights on and only show the weights, or sorry, only show the percentages. Let's go back to our crosstab, cells, column, turn off count, click OK. There we go. There we go. Okay, so right from the get-go, just eyeballing. Oh, there are some interesting differences there. Well, let's see what it looks like in a graph, right? Okay, so we're going to export this. as a CSV. I'm going to call it age and uh, importance of marriage. And then click save. All right, open up that file. I like that table or that graph. It was a good looking graph. And let's do it all over again. Okay, but this time we have an independent and dependent variable. So we're going to take our age. Let's come down here just to the weighted. So we're going to take our ages and let's take the categories and let's take those percentages. All right. So we're going to do just the same as before, right? Where instead of each column being a variable, now each column is a characteristic within a variable. We'll click Insert, Recommended Charts, All Charts, and let's see what we get. So if we do like the, okay, we can't do that one. Let's do 100% stacked again. I do want to try cluster. Let's see here. So if we do that though, okay, see here with the cluster, it's not grouped by age, it's grouped by the responses. That's why it looks so weird. So you can click on this and then come up here to switch row column. And then it switches it. But since it's 100, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, hold up. I want to see. We're in the wrong spot. There we go. Clustered column. There's a clustered column. Yeah. Yeah, let's go back to 100% stack. Cluster columns are good if you have fewer categories and there's more differences. Like right off the get-go, there's doesn't appear to be a whole lot of difference, right? Okay, so let's switch back. So we're going to go to change chart type, choose 100% stacked again. Okay. Now we will just delete that y-axis. We're going to delete the grid lines here. And let's add a title. So let's call this importance, figure two, right? Importance of marriage in living a fulfilling life by age. And just because I want to show you different approaches, right? I'm going to add the data set, ATP W126. Let's add those percentages back. So we're going to click on the whole chart, come here to add chart elements. That's the easiest way. Click on data labels, center. Oh, we got those zeros again. Let's get rid of those. I'm going to highlight those numbers, right click, format cells, change it to 1 decimal. Again, like my eyes cannot see this at all. And I don't like how it's reversed. So let's swap it just real quick. Oops. Oh, this one needed to go there. 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 And there. Okay. And then we'll put the age here. I guess we could just move it down. All right, there we go. Now we go from not all important to extremely important. I like that. Just as before, let's play around with like the fill. So I'm going to make it reddish. It's very red. Not too important here. That's almost too red. That's right. Let's start there. And then here. And then the somewhat important, we'll switch to kind of that light green. Then here. in here. Yeah. Let's bump up those sample size or sample size. Let's bump up the font sizes. Okay. Everything's fitting pretty good. Even this. All right. Let's make it all black. There we go. And then it changes the font size. I hate that. Okay. I'm gonna put this again at the top, the legend. I think I like it there. And then let's add, maybe we should add an x-axis title. Let's do that on this one. So let's click on the chart, come here to chart design, add chart elements, axis title, and do a primary horizontal. Because then we can write, age of respondent. I like that. Probably should go back and do that on our other one. Let's add our footnotes. Insert text box. There we go. Note and equals unweighted. Percent equals weighted. But we're going to do something even different this time because we're going to report on the chi-square. So looking here at our data, here's our weighted, our chi-square value, the sig value is right there, and it's 0. It's not actually 0, right? There's a number there, but it's less than 0.001. So we're going to add that information here. So we're going to say chi-square p is less than 0.001. Hot dang. I'm going to make this one bigger. Age of respondent. Importance of marriage and living a fulfilling life by age. American Trim Panel, weight 126. Yeah, I think that looks good. Okay. Now, just like with tables, there are so many ways to do graphs. I'm going to have this for you. So this is going to have some examples of different graphs and how they look and kind of how they're constructed. So here, for example, we have an ANOVA. Now, the cool thing about using these interval ratio variables is that you can put in those 95% confidence intervals. And it's a little tricky, right? How you go about doing that. I talk about it in the reading that essentially what you got to do is figure out the difference the mean is from the 95 low and the 95 high. So that's what this 1.57 is. And then if you go to chart design, add chart element, error bars, more error bar options, and then custom specify value, then you can specify what that high and that low is. And what it does is it adds that value to the mean or subtracts it from the mean. So that's why you need to have those high and lows. But it's cool because then you can actually see the bars, right? I know I just dogged on y-axes, but sometimes they are useful. Like especially when you got these error bars. Without them, it's kind of hard to understand the range of the 95% confidence intervals. So there's all sorts of different ways to go about building graphs. And it's one of those things that you're just going to have to take time and practice doing. And it's one of those things I don't expect you to do perfectly the first time. Like I do not expect you to make perfect graphs or tables the first go. It's something you just got to practice on. All right, everyone. Good job. I will see you in class.